strategies. I would like to mention that the contributors of the text of the book were Christian Kozhal, with his brilliant essay, The Loud Silence of the Images, as well as Sylvie Kaufmann, head of Society Memorial Arsène Roginsky, and French historian Nicolas Werth, who gave a historical background to this tragedy which took place in Soviet Union in 1937-38. Our project is a documentary project, photo-documentary memory project, devoted mainly to the memory of the victims of this peak of repression campaign in Stalin time in the Soviet Union. And before I take a closer look to our work, explaining you our strategies and concepts and also decisions, I would like to tell you very briefly the basic facts, historical facts about the Great Terror. 20 years after October Revolution, in 1937, the Soviet regime committed mass crime on a scale unprecedented in Europe in the times of peace. Within less than 16 months, from August 1937 till November 1938, 750,000 people were sentenced to death by shooting and executed, what translates to 50,000 executions monthly, or 1,600 daily. In other words, 1 in 100 of adult Soviet citizens were shot secretly in the back of his head during the Great Terror time. Additionally, 700,000 people died in the following years in the forced labor camps of gulags, what brings altogether the total human toll of this mass crime up to almost 1,500,000 people. All this operation was run in secrecy, secret interrogation, secret sentence, secret execution, and secret place of burial, the mass graves. The relatives of victims were not informed about the victim, and for many years they don't know what happened to their parents, who perished one night. NKVD, which is Soviet political police, came home and arrested their parents. The tremendous degree of the intimidation to which Russian society was subjected in the Great Terror is vividly demonstrated in this private photograph of a group of people, which is from sources from private archive of Prokofy Zubaryov. He was Commissar of Agriculture. It's like Minister of Agriculture. And we see that during the Great Terror, he blacked out faces of people, his colleagues, who were already purged. They disappeared. We can see that 7 faces was blacked out, and we can also see that there were in two turns. It happened in 2 turns.
So, excuse me, that was him that blurred these people? Okay.
Him or someone from his family. But it took place during the Great Terror time. And this is an example of Orwellian, like George Orwell, self-censorship which took place in private home and private circumstances, which indicates the fear which was the time, but also tells about that remembering terror victims could be regarded as a crime that time. That physical death was accompanied by a condemnation of the memory, which is a Greek term, ancient Greek, damnatio memoriam. So that person who was annihilated was also removed from all visual representations. Prokofy Zubaryov himself was also arrested, and he became one of the victims. He was shot 15 March 1938. It's pity that Fred is not present here, for I just add this picture a moment ago, especially to make a bridge to his speech. Understanding the physical liquidation of political opponents went hand in hand with this symbolic violence, that is the removal from all forms of memory in the visual documentation. This is a very telling example. You can read the information. This person is Nikolai Yezhov, the head of political police NKVD, and the loyal executioner of Stalin. He was running Operation of Great Terror. Soon after, he became also a victim and was shot in 1940. And as you see on the following representations of this image, he disappeared. It was, of course, more time-consuming to remove him manually, retouch him manually than today using Photoshop, but still it was. Few words about our project. The main objective of the project was to gather as far as possible comprehensive photographic evidence about the Great Terror and to add to existing oral history accounts and historical works of academics, scholar work, to add a kind of visual dimension, believing that it can impart concreteness and emotional strength to the memory efforts. For, as Dominic already mentioned before, we believe that emotional empathy is one of the perhaps main gates to create memory, collective memory or individual memory. So there were three main pillars of our work: was the directions to visualize victims, to visualize sites of killing, and to record and to bring accounts of eyewitnesses. This picture now appearing on the screen is one of these countless victims of the Great Terror. Is Alexei Zheltikov, Alexei Grigorievich Zheltikov, was born in 1980, and he was locksmith in the subway, Moscow subway workshops. He lived on Czarnograzinskaya Street 3, apartment 41, when he was arrested 8th July 1937. In 31 October, he was falsely accused of membership in counter-revolutionary organization and sentenced to death, executed the next day. The photographs of the victims taken in the NKVD prisons constitute the core element of the historical part of our book and exhibition, our project. They were kept for decades in secret archives, and they were not meant to be seen by outsiders, never. But when they surfaced in 1990, they became one of the most powerful visual accusations, powerful indictments of Stalin terror. Because the man in the photographer in the prison, in NKVD photographer, he was of course fully occupied with his technical task to take picture correct way. But the person in front of the camera, however, they knew that their life is in stake. They did not know that they are sentenced to death, but they knew that this is very serious, and the facial expressions of these photographed that-time prisoners are powerfully eloquent to the feelings ranging from fear, desperation, hope, or defiance. So, originally made for identification purposes, the images speak to us today, to present viewers, a powerful language of emotional responses to the existential threat of totalitarian terror. It's perhaps worth also to underline the inversion of the function of these images. They were initially taken to register, to label, to number people, to annihilate, to kill them. And when they surfaced 50 years later, they became one of the most powerful accusations to the oppressors, as well as, so the function of these images, in a way, inverse 180 degrees. Another thing is this is quite contrast to the original intentions of the oppressors, which I already mentioned, not only aimed to annihilate the people, but also intended to erase any memory after them. These images bring to us today a visual, powerful message of individual memory of every particular.
Can I ask you, Tomasz? They try to erase the memory of these people, and you bring them back to life, so to speak. Had these pictures been published somewhere before, or did you actually find them in the archives?
I would like to have a glass of water before I answer the question. Yes, I am not the person who discovered these pictures, not at all. They were, firstly, they appeared in 1992. Early 90s was the period when Soviet archives, because of fall of Soviet Union, was partially opened for researchers and journalists. Now we observe opposite tendency, that is closing. They are closing. No, I am not the person who discovered these pictures. They were known. This is partially to say, we know these pictures with Dominique already working on Gulag project. And we always think we should do something with this material, because it's, as I said, really very telling and very powerful. By the way, I just want to talk about archives. These original photographs are kept in Federal Security Service Archive and Russian Federation State Archive in Moscow, but also in regional archives of FSB, the formerly KGB. And the originals are 6 to 9 thin prints, usually on thin paper, matte paper, and they're fixed into the dossier of a person. Of course, all of them, they have one general rule. I will come back to this picture. The name of the prisoner has to be fixed in the negative to avoid any mistake or misunderstanding. And different photographers do it in different way. This picture was taken on Lubyanka prison, and as you see, photographer put the letters, first letters of the name of the family name of the victim, Zheltikov, in Cyrillic is this. And then after, when he took picture, it is an envelope affixed to the clothes of the prisoner. And when the negative was developed and fixed, then he wrote by hand, according to these letters, the full name and initials. However, working on the archives, I found that in Taganka prison in Moscow, they have a very professional stand for identification photography, perhaps from Tsar's time. And as you see, there is a kind of tableau panel to place information. There's this name set up from letters, some info about this district of NKVD. But very important thing is this. I discovered that the photos were dated. We have a date of when picture was taken, 12 August 1937. So when I go to files and check, we realized that this man was photographed 7 days before he was shot. And going in this direction, I found out amazing, quite strange and amazing and terrifying way to think that some people were photographed 1 day before execution or even in the day of execution. I will not prolong this now, maybe we come back to this in the discussion. What for to photograph a person just before killing? Here we have a close-up to this to this panel. All right, working on archives, I copied 1,200 prison photographs. Because the Great Terror was neither the first nor the last repression campaign in the Soviet Union, but the unique of this time was that it was unprecedented scale. The whole society was a target of terror. No exception, from worker to the high-rank party member up to also security officers who were also pushed soon after. So this brings the possibility, because I got this access to these pictures in archives, I work almost months in State Archive, Russian Federation State Archive, and I copied to make a collective image of society under terror. On exhibition we show 40 prints and 100 as a slide projection with lecture telling this short biographical notes. So I just choose few. Many of them already saw the exhibition, so I'll go maybe quicker. This is a worker, 20 years old, history student. All occupations, all nations could be found on this enormous group image, group portrait of society under terror. For today, I choose also this man, for he was a photographer serving in the Red Army. So we come to the end of the first part of the project, the historical pictures. We also collect background pictures from that time, showing the hatred campaigns, manifestations, and all what was going around this time, to illustrate the text, historical text by Nicola Vert. The second part of the project, second chapter, is the necropoles. We call it necropoles. It's the mass graves of Great Terror victims. They are spread all over the Soviet Union. To kill 1,600 people daily, it has to be well-organized crime. So they start 5 August, the operation was prepared before, and 5 August they start to kill people all over the Soviet Union. As Dominique said, 12 time zones. It lasts 15 months until Stalin said stop. 17 November, Stalin stopped the Great Terror. So, till today was found 100, a little bit more than 100 mass graves. Historians estimate that this is third part, 200 more should be found, but very, very little possible that it will be ever found. Red points shows the places I visited, trying to also to show topography of terror. But what was the sense of taking these pictures? To show topography of terror is one thing, but it was also, we know very well images of Nazi crimes, but we don't have images coming to us of this, what happened on the Soviet Union. So one goal is to bring to the public the images of these places where the people perished. And another insight which fueled us to do this, I traveled 2 years, that perhaps the most abusive act toward the terror victim in the symbolic sense is to deprive him even the right to have a grave, to deprive him a memory after him. This is very much part of our human condition, to funeral ceremony. So, looking after these graves, what was mainly done by citizens, Russian activists, people, it was social initiative, not government's initiative. Government finally agreed and cooperated, but initiative was coming definitely from the people. As well as my travel to photograph these places is act against this barbarian, I see it, I feel it, and I think about this for myself as well. It is a kind of attempt for redemption against this barbarian practice to shot and duck somewhere in the ground.
So Tomasz, both the blue and the red dots are places where mass graves are found?
No, not really. Thank you for this remark. Because I composed this map. It was very time-consuming and hard research work. And I believe for that time, in 2010, 2011, it was very current. So blue points, they show, oh, excuse me, I pressed the wrong button. Blue and red are those which are discovered, but every point is only the location of the town. Very often in one town there are 3 mass graves, because they start to bury here on the outskirts and then they change another position and bury in the different places. So there are locations of mass graves. And the green ones are the cities or towns where so-called troika, it is quasi-juridical tribunals which sentence people to death without their presence, just clockwork way, just one by one. And we know from history and research that every town where such troikas work, executions of course took place, and must be somewhere around these towns, the mass graves. They were never found till now. That's why also green points are shown as places of mass graves, but direct location still remain unknown. So I will show you a few pictures from this series. I start with Moscow Lubyanka, which were headquarters of Soviet political police, not anymore today, but it's a kind of symbol of crimes committed by Soviet system against their citizens, and a place which caused fear for decades in for Russian people. So now you can see some